Tony was excited to start his college life and move into his new dorm room. It was a small old building located on the outskirts of the campus, known for its eerie atmosphere. As he unpacked his belongings, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. The other students in the dorm seemed friendly enough, but there was an underlying tension in the air. Rumors had circulated about strange occurrences and unexplained disappearances that had taken place in the dorm over the years. Tony dismissed them as mere urban legends, but deep down, a sense of unease settled within him. One night, as Tony lay in his bed trying to fall asleep, he heard a faint scratching sound coming from the wall behind him. He got up and pressed his ear against the cold, aged bricks. The scratching grew louder and more frantic, sending chills down his spine. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to investigate. Tony followed the sound, which led him to a hidden door in the basement of the dorm. It was concealed behind a bookshelf, covered in layers of dust. As he opened the door, a gust of stale air hit his face, and he descended into a dimly lit tunnel. The tunnel seemed to go on forever, with no end in sight. Tony's heart raced as he pressed on, his footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. Suddenly, he came across an old, dilapidated room. It was filled with dusty books, broken furniture, and cobwebs. But what caught Tony's attention was a collection of worn-out journals scattered across a desk. Curiosity overcame his fear, and he picked up one of the journals. As he started flipping through its pages, he discovered a series of chilling entries written by previous students who had lived in the dorm. The entries described the same scratching sounds, the feeling of being watched, and unexplained phenomena that Tony had experienced. Intrigued and terrified, Tony vowed to uncover the truth behind the mysterious occurrences in the dorm. He spent hours reading through the journals, piecing together the stories of those who had lived there before him. The more he read, the more he realized that there was something sinister at play. As Tony delved deeper into the journal entries, he discovered a pattern. Each entry ended abruptly, and the student who had written it had vanished without a trace. The last entry was written by a student named Emily, who had gone missing just a few weeks ago. Tony knew he had to find her and uncover the secrets of the dorm before it was too late. Tony began his quest by talking to the other students who lived in the dorm. He asked if they had experienced anything strange or knew about the whereabouts of Emily. Most of them seemed reluctant to speak about it, but a few admitted to hearing the scratching sounds and feeling a presence in the building. One night, as Tony was searching for clues in the basement, he stumbled upon a hidden passage leading to a secret room. The room was filled with old photographs, newspaper clippings, and research materials. It seemed to be a makeshift investigation hub set up by a previous student who had also tried to uncover the truth. Tony realized that he was not the first person to be consumed by the mystery of the dorm. The evidence he found pointed to a dark history of the building. Decades ago, the dorm had been a mental asylum, and the scratching sounds were attributed to the tortured souls of the patients who had suffered there. As Tony continued his investigation, he discovered that the disappearances of the students were not random. There was a malevolent force at work, targeting individuals who showed an interest in the dorm's dark past. Tony became convinced that Emily's disappearance was related to her digging too deep into the secrets of the asylum. Determined to save Emily and put an end to the horrors of the dorm, Tony reached out to a local historian who had extensive knowledge of the area. The historian confirmed the existence of the asylum and revealed that it had been closed down due to reports of inhumane treatment and mysterious deaths. Together, Tony and the historian discovered a hidden room in the basement, sealed behind a solid concrete wall. Inside, they found evidence of the asylum's sinister experiments and the spirits that still haunted the building. Tony realized that the scratching sounds were the desperate attempts of these tormented souls to communicate with the living. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Tony devised a plan to release the trapped spirits and free Emily from their clutches. With the help of the historian and a group of brave students, they performed a ritual to cleanse the dorm of its dark past. As the ritual reached its climax, the scratching sounds intensified, echoing throughout the building. Suddenly, a blinding light engulfed the dorm, and a sense of peace replaced the once permeating fear. Tony knew that the spirits had been freed, and Emily was safe. In the aftermath of the ritual, the dorm underwent a transformation. The eerie atmosphere dissipated, and the students who lived there no longer felt the oppressive presence that had haunted them before. Tony and Emily became close friends, forever bound by their shared experience. The college dorm, once a place of terror and mystery, became a symbol of resilience and the triumph of light over darkness. Tony's journey had taught him the importance of confronting one's fears and the power of friendship in the face of unimaginable horrors. From that day forward, he vowed to help others overcome their own demons and uncover the truth hidden beneath the surface. Alvaro arrived at his new college dorm with a mix of excitement and nervousness. It was his first time living away from home, and he couldn't wait to start this new chapter of his life. As he entered the dorm building, he couldn't help but notice how old and eerie it looked. The walls were worn out, and the dimly lit corridors gave off a gloomy atmosphere. Alvaro was assigned to room 303 on the third floor. He climbed up the creaky stairs, his footsteps echoing through the empty hallway. When he reached his room, he noticed that the door was slightly ajar. He cautiously pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was small, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a single window covered by heavy, moth-eaten curtains. Alvaro unpacked his belongings and tried to make the room feel a bit more like home. As he settled in, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. Every now and then, he thought he caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of his eye, but when he turned to look, there was nothing there. He dismissed it as his imagination playing tricks on him. Days turned into weeks, and Alvaro began to adjust to his new routine. He made friends with his roommate, George, and got to know the other students in the dorm. However, strange things started happening around him. One night, Alvaro woke up to the sound of whispers. He sat up in bed and strained his ears, trying to make out the words, but they were too faint to understand. The whispers continued sporadically, always in the dead of night. Alvaro mentioned it to George, who admitted that he had heard them too. They decided to investigate the source of the whispers and began researching the history of the college dorm. What they discovered sent chills down their spines. Years ago, room 303 was occupied by a student named Lucas. Lucas was known for his obsession with the occult and had delved into dark rituals and practices. One night, he disappeared under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a trail of bizarre symbols and strange occurrences. The room had remained vacant ever since, and rumors of hauntings had plagued the dormitory. Alvaro and George became determined to uncover the truth behind the whispers and Lucas's disappearance. They delved deeper into the history, scouring old newspaper articles and talking to former residents of the dorm. The more they discovered, the more they realized that the whispers were just the beginning. One evening, as Alvaro and George were returning to their room, they noticed a flickering light coming from under the door. They exchanged nervous glances and slowly pushed it open. The room was bathed in an eerie glow, emanating from a circle of candles in the center. Written on the floor were the same symbols they had seen in their research. Alvaro's heart raced as he noticed a faint figure standing in the corner. It was Lucas, his face twisted in an otherworldly expression. Lucas raised a trembling finger and pointed toward Alvaro, his lips moving silently. The whispers grew louder, filling the room with an ominous presence. Before Alvaro could react, the figure vanished, leaving behind an oppressive silence. Alvaro and George were left in shock, unsure of what they had witnessed. They realized that Lucas's spirit was trying to communicate with them, warning them of something sinister. As the weeks went by, the whispers grew louder and more intense. Alvaro and George's nights were filled with fear and sleeplessness. They confided in their friends and decided to seek help from a paranormal investigator. The investigator spent hours in the room, conducting experiments, and gathering evidence. Finally, the investigator revealed the truth. Lucas had been involved in a ritual gone wrong, inadvertently summoning a malevolent entity. The whispers were the entity's attempt to break through to the physical world, using the energy of the living to fuel its manifestation. Armed with this knowledge, Alvaro, George, and their friends devised a plan to banish the entity from the dormitory. They gathered in room 303, creating a protective circle and reciting incantations. The room filled with a blinding light, and the entity's presence gradually faded away. Exhausted but relieved, Alvaro and George collapsed onto their beds. The whispers were gone, and the dormitory returned to its quiet, eerie self. Although they knew they had faced something unimaginable, they also knew that they had prevailed. However, as they drifted off to sleep, Alvaro couldn't shake off the feeling that something lingered in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to return. The following days were filled with a sense of unease. Alvaro couldn't shake the feeling that they had only temporarily silenced the malevolent entity. It weighed on his mind, casting a shadow over his every move. He shared his concerns with George, who also felt a lingering presence. Determined to find a solution, Alvaro and George sought out an elderly librarian known for her expertise in the occult. Mrs. Jenkins, as she was called, listened intently to their story and offered her assistance. She believed that the entity could only be fully banished by finding and destroying the source of its power. Armed with Mrs. Jenkins' guidance, Alvaro and George embarked on a quest to uncover the secrets hidden within the college campus. They delved into old archives, studied forgotten journals, and sought out long-retired professors who might hold clues. Each step revealed a piece of the puzzle, leading them closer to the truth. Their research led them to an abandoned basement beneath the college's library. It was a place forgotten by time, filled with dusty tomes and relics of forgotten rituals. As they explored the dimly lit space, Alvaro's heart skipped a beat when he discovered an ancient book bound in cracked leather. The book contained the incantation required to sever the entity's ties to their world. Alvaro and George realized that they needed to perform a ritual at the exact spot where the original summoning had taken place. Armed with the book, they returned to room 303, determined to end the haunting once and for all. The room felt heavier than ever as they prepared for the ritual. Candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls, while the cold breeze whispered through the cracks. Alvaro's hands trembled as he recited the incantation, following every word carefully. As he finished the final line, the room fell into an unsettling silence. The air grew still, and a moment of anticipation hung in the air. Suddenly, a blinding light burst forth from the floor, illuminating the room. Alvaro and George shielded their eyes, unable to comprehend the magnitude of the moment. When the light faded, the room was empty. The malevolent entity had been banished, and peace was restored to room 303. Alvaro and George collapsed onto their beds, exhausted but victorious. They had confronted their deepest fears and emerged as heroes in their own right. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of the haunting gradually faded. Alvaro and George went on with their college lives, forever bonded by their shared experience. They became known as the brave duo who had triumphed over the darkness that had plagued the college dorm. But as Alvaro lay in bed one night, he couldn't help but wonder if their victory was truly complete. He couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that somewhere, in the depths of the college, a sliver of darkness still lingered, waiting for a chance to resurface. The college dorm stood as a testament to their courage, a place where their story would be whispered in hushed tones by future generations of students. Alvaro hoped that his experience would serve as a reminder to always be wary of the shadows that lurked in the corners, for sometimes the true horrors lay within the familiar walls we call home.